Welcome back, everyone. I'm the Depressed Dior, and this is Langrisser Mobile Apex Season 18. On the previous banner video, I mentioned that I was going to be out of town for the weekend, and I was. And I generally don't like playing Apex on my phone, but I had the time to spare, so I decided to go ahead and see if I can get a quick win. So this is after the new banner, so Salika and Ymir have been added to the roster. Salika, I went ahead and added to the box. I replaced the chorus. My Salika is unfortunately only 3 stars, which means some limitations as far as her swapping of skills. But on good news, Icemelda is now 6 stars. So everything in my box except for Salika is 6 stars at the moment. Also, my opponent doesn't know what stars my Salika is, so she could be ban bait. As for our opponent here, I thankfully don't need to worry about Salika or Ymir. In fact, I don't need to worry about a lot of things in this box. This is an old-school AoE rush box. We got a Kaya with Polyol here, and then, of course, a lot of old-school AoE types that do a lot of debuffs. For the most part, none of this is super nasty at all. So, my opponent went ahead and banned Rose and Seal, which is to be expected when you're trying to do some sort of AoE rush. So I was like, alright, I guess I'll get rid of the Awakened one, because honestly, most of this is not too terrible. I knew my opponent was probably going to pick Akaya first, possibly, or Polyol. And I knew if I had banned Akaya first, they probably would grab Polyol. So I was like, alright, let's see if they'll just grab Akaya and see what happens from there. So then, of course, the Awakened one is also kind of annoying to deal with the global range spellbounds and all that stuff. So I go ahead and grab Liana. This will ensure I at least have something to deal with all the AoE and debuffs coming my way. And then my opponent goes ahead and bans tanks. I'm assuming they're going after Christiane and Lightbringer purely because of their damage reduction auras. That's probably the only reason, because honestly you don't need to really worry about tanks when it's AoE rush. And as predicted, my opponent did pick Akaya, so we got that to deal with. Kaya can, of course, do some act against shenanigans, a little bit of swapping, teleport shenanigans, and then, of course, the big thing, which is buffing everyone's attack and intelligence by 30% and giving +2 mobility, which is what she's usually used for. So I get rid of Polyol, get rid of Michelle. Michelle has some pretty extreme range, and as does Polyol. Both of them are physical AoE, which tends to be a lot worse for me. And yeah, I just honestly, like, while there's a lot of AoE in this box, a lot of it's short-legged. So anything that forces them to rely heavily on Akaya's additional mobility, I think, is good in my book. So I got Freya at this point. I don't really care as long as I have some sort of tank. They go ahead and get rid of my remaining 2 healers. And they grab Clotaire. Clotaire can cover the map pretty easily, even without a mobility buff. So I go ahead and get rid of Jintoki, get rid of Wedem. Jintoki is pretty obvious. Jintoki just does a lot of damage. It can potentially be very, very aggressive with his first striking. Wedem, of course, since this is going to be an AoE rush box, I'm expecting to get hit with some AoE and then get followed up by Wedem's teleport nonsense. So I'll grab Isolde, because my opponent's been banning healers and tanks so far, so I still have all my staples. They go ahead and take care of Namiya. They get rid of the Awakened one. Namiya was definitely a consideration, since not as a first DPS pick, but as a future pick, simply because she can just cover the entire map and then just blast them all with that aquatic AoE nonsense. And my opponent doesn't really have much for healing. They grab Juggler. Their Juggler is aquatic. Usually if you're doing AoE rush with a Juggler is usually going to be Cavalry. Cavalry, of course, has more mobility. And I don't think they'll really lose much in the form of attack. The few times I had to deal with a cavalry juggler, their AoE definitely hurt me quite a bit, because it's, of course, physical damage. So I go ahead and get rid of Rian, get rid of King of the Red Moon. This is definitely not my first time recording this. I had to scrap the previous recording because I've freaking leaf blowers blowing outside my door over and over again. So also I messed up some settings as well, so I had to kind of redo it. So that's the reason why I know all these names already, because I would forget. Alright, go ahead and grab Ashian. So I have 2 Actigans now. They go ahead and get rid of Icemelda, get rid of Grinshield. Yeah, at this point I had Silvaria, Grinshield, Icemelda, and Hilda as my 4 remaining. So whatever I was going to be left with was something I can use. So they go ahead and grab Evil God Kruger. I go ahead and get rid of Arian Rod and Lycoris. Lycoris, of course, can actually do healing. And for the most part, her ability to put out terrain and potential extra damage is kind of annoying. Arian Rod, of course, can double action if possible. She also has her cross AoE is very, very nasty. That does a lot of damage and can give her a bunch of barrier stacks things that make it so she's kind of hard to get to kill afterwards. Also, she can dispel buffs. So yeah, go ahead and grab Silvaria, and they grab Estelle. So they do have a tank, but it is physical, which that doesn't really matter since all my attacks are physical anyway. And I have a million ways to bypass guard at this point. Alright, so Isolde, standard kit with Star Prismas, all of her exclusives. S18, all of her exclusives with Star Prismas. Freya, Redeemers with 3C Crystal Spike and Heavy Shield. Silvaria with Deck Gunners and Sneak, 3C and Disarm. And then Liana, we got Act Again, Heal, 3C and Windbloom Chanter. Evil God Kruger, all of his exclusives with Sorceresses. Sorceresses are not that useful on Evil God Kruger because he's going to be AoEing. He does have Evil Overwhelming. Yeah, that's pretty much it. He also has Dark Ward, which does give him another 2 spaces of movement, which can be pretty helpful. We got Akaya here, and this threw me off. I went through this entire match thinking Akaya had the ability to buff everyone, and she didn't grab that buff. She has Blood of the Sheikah, Spirit, her 3C, and then she has Bestial Outbreak. Bestial Outbreak does use her wolves, but it doesn't. Instead of doing the 30% attack and intelligence buff and mobility, instead swaps places with the target with that wolf while killing it, and then lets the that target act again. So she has an act again, but she doesn't actually have the stuff that gives the plus mobility. We got Juggler here, 3C, Triton, Beast Shock, pretty standard with Steel Mane Werewolves. Oh yeah, Akka does have Steel Mane Werewolves as well. Clotaire, all of his exclusives with Sandsea Mercenaries, and then we got Estelle with Phoenix Wave, 3C, Detect, and Sandsea Mercenaries. So for this, I was under the assumption that this Akaya had the ability to do the plus 30% and plus 2 mobility, which apparently was not the case. So I was being really aggressive at the start, mainly to try to either bait my opponent to take out my Silvaria and I could trade, or just leave my Silvaria alone long enough for me to just snipe something. So yeah, I moved very aggressively. I moved full 3 spaces. This isn't too bad, because the only person that can actually reach is... the only person that can reach and do anything significant besides just AoE damage is Clotaire. And Clotaire can definitely kill with his single target, though you usually use him for his AoE. But yeah, with that, I was like, alright, if he does... if he does go and kill Silvaria, I can just kill him with something else, Isolde or S18 or something like that. But my opponent goes ahead and does Evil Overwhelming. And I notice it does target 2 targets now, which I'm guessing is either from a talent's talent or inscription talent if he has one, or it's from his exclusive. I'm not entirely certain. But he went ahead and applied it to 2 targets. S18 had the butterfly, so it didn't actually apply to her, but it is on Liana. I'm not too concerned about debuffs. I have Liana, so I can endure whatever's coming. So at this point, I was like, alright, cool. I'm going to go ahead and act again then, since my opponent's not going to do anything. I was expecting maybe they're waiting for me to do act again to bait, make me waste my act again on something. Again, I wasn't really that worried about it. I was wanting to trade, and my opponent did not want to trade. So S18 goes ahead, or Estelle moves up, gets up 3C. Now 3C does provide mobility, but it's a bit late now. Clotaire was 9 spaces away, so I attack him directly, and I do way more than I need. This does spawn a wolf, but I'm not too concerned about the wolves right now. Also, upon when I did Silvaria's thing, the people that were in 9 spaces away were Clotaire, Juggler, and Kruger. Kruger, of course, moved up. Juggler's a tank, so it's not a big deal on his front. So really going after Clotaire was definitely the best of all worlds. If for whatever reason Cloterra was not an option, I would have shot Akka at 8 range, which probably would have killed. Alright, so Wolf moves up, and then Bestial Outbreak actually does a swap and gives an act again to Kruger here. This does nudge him forward 1 step, but that doesn't really help, because I can just run up and kill him now. Originally, if I were to run up and attack him, I would have had to do Solitary Journey and then do Awaken Will, because that's 2 range. But now that he's been nudged forward a step, I can actually just reach him, so... And the wolf just runs forward. Obviously the thought of this could be a bot, but when I did this match, the player was taking long enough that it was definitely not a bot, because bots would act immediately. So yeah, just kind of run up and... Also, bots don't use Bestial Outbreak. They literally don't, ever. So yeah, go ahead and do 3C, which kills Kruger easily. I still have my barrier up, so that means I'm immune to all debuffs, including the ones that happen because of its exclusive. So none of those apply. I go ahead and do the 3C AoE part, and since I did get kill, I did get Solitary from that. I originally picked, what was it called? Resistance for the extra damage, so now I have 2 of the wills already. Juggler moved up, put up Triton, nothing too special there. So I now go ahead and start working on putting up a guard, I guess. And then I go ahead and do Rainbow Sparkle just so I can kill that wolf, because I can kill it for free and still get my refresh. So yeah, quick and easy. It does give some buffs to Akaya, but that's hardly anything. I go ahead and throw Decree on Silvaria, just to get some attack buffs going. And I have 3 stacks of that going now. Alright, 3C, but the teleport range is a bit short, so it doesn't actually get in range to negate Freya's guard. The 3C does do pretty much everything Juggler can do. Essentially, it does both his types of guard, and it applies Beast Shock. But the only thing that affects right now is Silvaria, and Silvaria does not want to move to begin with. So I go ahead and just move in and start killing Akaya. I can bypass guard because I have Solitary active. I go ahead and use Awaken Will anyway, just so I can move afterwards. And then Estelle moves up, does her Phoenix Wave, which will heal her back to full and do some damage. It almost kills Silvaria, but that's about it. So yeah, go ahead and just shift forward, start throwing out some 3C to get some healing and get some debuff removal going. I didn't really have much that I can do with Silvaria, so I just went ahead and 3C'd in place. It also heals her, so might as well. And then I go take out Estelle. Go ahead and do 3C again. She is immune to stun, apparently. But Estelle's not really a good tank nowadays, or really ever. She is like an offensive tank, really. So I go ahead and do. So I go ahead and just kind of get set up. I get my 3rd will, so now I have act again. They only have Juggler left. This is kind of a foregone conclusion. But goes ahead and does Beast Shock. He is immune to fixed damage. So the only ones that hit him, the only fixed damage that was applied is the ones that can be bypassed if it was mixed troops. There you go. So at this point I was like, alright, I'll go ahead and do Primordial Soul. Get that reapplied, move in, attack at range. And if this didn't kill, I would have an act again, because I have all 3 wills. And there you go. Yep, quick and easy. So yeah, got that taken care of. This was in Silver 3, so I'm thinking that most of the tryhards have already progressed on towards Gold, so hopefully we'll have that for the upcoming weeks. In any case, I am the Depressed Eeyore. This was Langrisser Mobile Apex Season 18, and I'll see you guys next time.